It's summertime.
What? What's that?
What year is it?
All good things must come to an end.
Well, the time of Mario's big gains has ended at last, as the Mario movie hit digital on the 15th of May, and the DVD and Blu-ray came out June 13th. Not to mention, the movie is taking on a slew of films for the summer movie season. So let's pit Bowser against what we are dealing with.
Summer movies! Three, two,
And so the Super Mario Bros. Movie ended its run at 1,361,553,421. And the partner, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, ended its run at 681,222,435. Whereas Transformers Rise of the Beasts ended its run with 437,944,638. But Bowser had other ideas. Then along came The Flash, accompanied with controversy, having a dismal 266,550,332. Clearly, Spidey was not impressed. Then along came Elemental, with its own controversies, which was said to be a little fluid, and it ended its run with 484,829,737. Naturally, Bowser was not impressed. Wait, that's not how to do it! Mistakenly, Bowser applied heat to Wade, and when water is heated, it expands, increasing in volume, which makes it less dense. Heat is what makes the water molecules move quickly. This causes a reaction which we call evaporation. The mistake Bowser made to Wade is changing his phase of matter, going from a liquid into a gas, which would create the air people of Elemental. But when the water vapor loses its heat energy and cools, it would go through a process called condensation. While Bowser failed, Spidey had a little science up his sleeve. The key to defeating the immortal element of water is by changing its molecular structure. Spidey administered the desiccant, calcium hydride, into Wade's body. A desiccant is a hygroscopic substance used as a drying agent. Perfect for Hydro Man, for when it reacts with water, it produces calcium hydroxide, an explosive hydrogen gas. Alright, Bowser, you know what to do. Let's clear up space for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, along with its own controversy. Of course, because of Kathleen Kennedy's meddling, the movie only ended with 383,963,057. That only meant their greatest challenge had yet to emerge. After that flop came the fabled double feature, and an eerie barrage of ticking began. While its consistent growth proved to be imposing, something about this film seemed special and oddly familiar. Oppenheimer's final numbers of 976,968,205 was the first true threat for Spidey. But it wasn't for the Super Mario Bros. Movie, so they let it pass. Ironically, a film about a bomb would prove to be the contrary. A puzzling thought arose in Bowser's mind as this flick moved right past him. As if this film would serve a grander purpose in the grand scheme of existence. And then along came Barbie. And that was 2023. And these were the films that were notable that year. There's Mario. But we're going to need to fast forward through a bunch of films to get to 2024. Here they are. And there they go. Race sucked and Migration was awesome. Kung Fu Panda 4 was okay. Ghostbusters was okay. And we have arrived to the point where Mario and Peach were duking it out at the box office. Oh, and would you happen to see that second movie there? That happens to be the movie directed by the director of the Zelda movie, Wes freaking Ball. And I bet you that the same special effects team that worked on If will work on the Zelda movie, since the film will be worked on at Sony. I bet you're wondering how I feel about each of these three films. The Garfield movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. The Garfield movie was the most successful film financially, but critically, considering the fact that I grew up with Garfield and Friends, which is still peak Garfield, by the way, I don't think it hit the mark as well as it could have. Using the same director as Emperor's New Groove was a really weird idea, because they made John generic. He was incredible in the original series. Nicholas Hoult is not Tom Huge. Now, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, let me make it simple for you. This film is the definition of a blueprint for the Zelda movie. This man gets adventure, and then some. I'd love to see how this guy tackles a Goron, because the orangutan in this movie is stupid charming. You can never go wrong with the orangutans in this series. Whereas Furiosa was robbed. It was an amazing movie, and Anya Taylor-Joy was incredible as Furiosa. It was very well shot and less problematic than Mad Max Fury Road. And Hemsworth was a crazy villain. But because of the timing of the film's release, the film bombed. People were not into the idea of having more girl bosses. However, in order for us to get to our next Smash-associated film, we have to go past Deadpool and Wolverine, which is awesome, by the way, to here. At the point when people are placing their bets when the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 or the Pokemon Legends ZA trailers would reveal first. And this is also when, after, mind you, Disney has released 2 trailers already for Mufasa, which is being released 2 days internationally before Sonic. Seriously, Paramount, what are you doing? You're already losing money. Why are you losing more? Get to advertising now. I don't care that you lost a TV station. Get to advertising and you won't lose more money. Let's also not forget the lukewarm reception to Knuckles. We'll get to that later. But first, for old time's sake, let's look back at domestic. And we have found ourselves back at domestic, where the Super Mario Bros. Movie ended its run on September the 7th of 2023, having a hefty domestic gross of $574,934,330. It sadly did not beat Barbie in any category, but here it stands at number 1 in video game movies. I mean, who knows? The sequel was just announced. And maybe Sonic 3 will get a good amount of money in the box office. But you have to do that within 11 days. So it's not really a 2024 movie. Well, at least there's no competition for 4 months. Good lord, I'm gonna be busy next year. Ironically, Sonic is going to have to go against Captain Falcon and Snow White. I hope you can hear my air quotes, because the humor in those names is palpable. Though my friend Valiant Renegade would call her Snow What. Just so you know, Captain Falcon will be in February, and Snow What will be in March. Let's get back on track with Sonic the Hedgehog 2. That had 190,872,904. Followed by the underrated Wreck-It Ralph with 189,422,889. Followed by the fan-bolstered success of Sonic the Hedgehog with 146,066,470. With back-to-back Pokemon movies, starting with Detective Pikachu with 144,105,346. And then Pokemon the first movie with 85,744,662. And I was right, Mario did not defeat Incredibles 2. And now, on to International. We do have something to report for International though. Revelation Lugia was KO'd out of the top 6. I had initially thought that everything stopped on September 7th, but boy was I wrong. Because while the official charts have 786,619,091, but of course, here on the Super Smash Bros. Cinematic Universe box office records, we know that the Super Mario Bros. Movie has a Japanese dub that it's its own film, with a different script. So, if we were to remove the difference that the Japanese film made itself, we would have 684,701,024 instead. Which means, overseas, the film didn't officially have its end of run until November 8th, 2023. I mean, that's quite an impressive run, even though they didn't beat Warner Brothers, sadly. Oh, and if we were to combine the two totals in the international box office, they would have only beat Despicable Me 3. So let's look at how the rest fared. Wreck-It Ralph, or Sugar Rush, had 307,098,844. Detective Pikachu had 284,956,378. Then Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with 214,548,614. Then Sonic the Hedgehog 1 with 156,469,654. And then finally, we have been bookended with Super Mario Bros. Movie, the Japanese dub, that got 101,918,067. Now let's look at worldwide. Man, I never tire of that song. It just gets you pumped! And here we are again, at the Super Mario Bros. Movie's final total, at 1,361,553,421. And this year's Inside Out 2 has already outdone that total. And off the record, it's at 1,597,125,737. So Sonic 3 already has massive competition. Grossing that much in 11 days is nigh impossible. I will say though that the film wasn't bad at all. It was quite good. Not bad, Disney. 3 great films in a row. I don't think it can continue that anymore after Deadpool. I have no faith in Barry Jenkins. I'm sorry. Deadpool had the good faith of Sean Levy, Ryan Reynolds, and Hugh Jackman working together, but I'm sorry, Mufasa just looks like a major DEI fest. I will not sugarcoat it. And I hope there is someone like Elon Musk to come and grab Bob Iger out of that company as well as his goons and fix the company so they can stop dragging my grandfather through the mud as well as Uncle Walt and stop the Frontierland from being demolished. Let's also add not demolishing Muppet Vision 3D, which was the last thing that Jim Henson put his fingers on. This obsession with being IP only needs to stop now. Oh yeah, let's also add that Bob Iger put a clause in the agreement for Disney Plus to stop people from suing them for killing their wife. If there was a better time to get Bob Iger out of this company once and for all, it would be now. Because instead of enriching our culture, they're sabotaging it with space witches, drag queen cast members, and financing the abuse of children. I'm sorry. Aren't children supposed to be your market? Let's also add the fact that their cast and crew are still being jerks to the people that fill their wallets. How are these people still employed? How? And now a currently beloved Christian woman who happened to be in Deadpool is now in a lawsuit with them for wrongfully canceling her employment. I am hoping to God that they get through discovery and get rid of the people responsible, so we can get back to making art instead of agenda, so they can work on finally the Mega Man movie and the Pac-Man movie that they still have yet to formally announce. All they had was freaking sequels and one original film, Hoppers, for Pixar. I wanted more out of D23 this year. I didn't get it. I had to get that out of my system. It's been a year of black pilling insanity. I need more things in my life to digest than this filth. Well, I'm glad that Wreck-It Ralph exists, as it made $471,222,889. And then Detective Pikachu with $449,762,638. Then Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with $405,421,518. Then Sonic the Hedgehog with $319,719,638. 715,683. Then, to my regret, the 6th spot belongs to Pocket Monsters the movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, or Pokemon the first movie, with 163,644,562. When we get to news, you'll see why.
I got some bad news.
Bad news?
Rachael! Rachael!
With a heavy heart, I must say that as of August the 10th, 2024, we lost Rachael Lillis. We lost Jigglypuff to breast cancer. She will forever be missed.
What's the good news?
Well, we have a movie to look forward to. As on March 10th, they announced that the Super Mario Bros. Movie is getting a sequel, which I did mention earlier. But what I didn't mention was that they announced the release date of said sequel, being the 3rd of April in the US and the 24th in Japan. And that Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic will be returning as directors. But considering the fact the next movie will feature Yoshi, there's no telling of whether this movie will be a sequel or a prequel, or even both. Then there's the matter of Jack Black as Bowser returning, concerning his controversy. And who knows what will happen after the release of Minecraft next year. Who knows what will happen to the world next year? Heck, we don't even know when the Switch 2 is being announced. All we know of that is that it's going to be within the fiscal year. And that concludes the 31st of March. As for the Zelda movie, which of course is a joint venture with Sony, has Wes Ball working directly with Miyamoto, with a total of 7 different companies working on it, including Sony Pictures Animation, which made my all-time favorite animated film, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The criminally underrated Surf's Up, though wrongfully put into streaming, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, and the movie is helmed by a director that wants the film to look like freaking Miyazaki! My biggest concern is not the director, but the producer and the writer, as they both have made major stinkers. So the quality of the film will be a major crapshoot. I will say that I do respect Avi Arad for having some very choice words for my mortal enemies. Being a dual citizen, being from both Israel and America. However, Derek Connolly is going to be penning the movie script for Sega's Eternal Champions. I am not sure how to feel about that one, as I've never played the game, and I'm not exactly impressed with the films that I've heard his script from. Speaking of unimpressed, I have some choice words about certain shows based on characters from the Smash universe. So let's get Castlevania Nocturne out of the way first, which debuted September 28th, 2023, and it's a series by Netflix. So this is our boy, Richter Belmont. He's the youngest vampire killer wielder. He's the son of Just Belmont in one game. Is the great-grandson of Simon Belmont in one game. He has a strong sense of justice, has an unwavering will, is kind and caring to others, is known for being reckless, feels useless when there's no danger, and is taking on an evil priest named Shaft, who is trying to resurrect Dracula. Whereas the show has this Richter, gains his vampire killer from his dying girl boss mother, is the grandson of the recluse Just Belmont, unspecified relative of Simon Belmont, is casually confident, has a flippant demeanor, has a drive caused by trauma, has emotional vulnerability, takes on impossible odds, is fighting an overpowered vampire demoness with the abbot to resurrect her because, spoilers from the first series of Castlevania, Dracula is still alive. Oh, but it doesn't end there. Castlevania scholars remember Richter's love interest, Annette? This is Annette Renard, or Annette in Dracula X. She is simply Richter's love interest. She's also a villager that was in the middle of the attack by Dracula. In other words, she was targeted. She's strong-willed, dislikes anything unfair, is kind and caring towards everyone, would defy death by someone else's hand, and is turned into a lesser vampire in another game. So Castlevania Nocturne takes place in 1792 during the French Revolution, whereas the Civil War didn't start until 1861. So knowing the current era, they couldn't help themselves. They turned Annette into this character, being part of a concerning trend where someone of European descent is turned into someone of darker-skinned descent. It's becoming less of an artistic choice and more of a calculated one. And it's always blondes or redheads. Go figure, when redheads are already a rare occurrence. But my problem isn't skin deep. No, it goes further than that. So she still serves the role as a sort of love interest, but that's when the similarities end. Because she's no longer a villager, but born into slavery and committed marriage. Which means, as a slave, she ran away. She was unfortunately an African slave, meaning she was part of a huge agricultural economy, which included, off the record, sugar, coffee, indigo, and tobacco. She was part of a French colony with a high mortality rate because of incredible violence, hardship, and disease. I don't know how she survived that. Lost her mother because she was committing witchcraft. Learns the ways of voodoo after she is a slave, which makes no sense because they would already learn about it when they were slaves. And what is Vodou, you may ask? It is a combination of teachings from the African religions and Christianity. It is in no way a form of witchcraft. It is merely a belief system. That is all it is. That's strike one to this series. And she's somehow a descendant of two African spirits, Ogun and Oranila. Both are Orishas, divine spirits that play a key role in the Yoruba religion of West Africa. This is Ogun. He's a warrior god and spirit of iron, war, metalwork, and rum. He's the god of iron and the patron deity of craftsmen and smiths. He has a dominion over iron, metal ores, and metallurgy. He can transform matter with fire and has an explosive and fiery nature. When he forges a weapon, it is usually a sword. Now Oranmila. He's a primordial Orisha, an Ara Orun, one that existed before the creation of humanity and resides in heaven. The Orisha of wisdom, knowledge, and divination.
There it is.
As well as philosophy, fate, destiny, prophecy, civilization, and enlightenment. Is considered a sage and walks the earth as a prophet. Now let's see how those reflect on Annette. First of all, she is not an Ara Orun, but an Iran Male or Iran Mole, a sacred being living on Earth. If she was a descendant of Ogun, she would have forged a sword instead of a dagger. And she would be able to produce fire, not earth. Yeah, contrary to popular belief, Ogun had the element of earth, but could not produce it. He was a blacksmith, which means he took the materials from the earth using fire and created metal. Iron. Netflix. Powerhouse animation. In what reality is being a blacksmith not cool? And instead of just forging weapons, she could also create other iron implements, including scissors, a wrench. She could forge guns! But they chose to make her a victim and to basically go through Oppression Olympics with Richter. I know you lost your mom, but I lost my mom too, and I was a slave. So I had a worse life than you, which made her absolutely insufferable. Apparently, women aren't allowed to be endearing and badass anymore. No wonder Gina was canned. I can accept that she was a slave, but she doesn't have to be a jerk about it. Not Richter or the rest of his bloodline was responsible for her suffering. It wouldn't kill anyone to actually look into how people acted in that time period. For once in your life, stop putting modern thought processes in the past. It's ignorant as heck. Because of that crap, it made her smug, dismissive, inconsiderate, subjective to a fault, hot-headed, short-tempered, callous, selfish, and overbearing. People who write characters like her should be ashamed of yourself. It's because of crap like this that the writer's strike happened. It's your fault. I hope punks like you get blacklisted. Get out of Hollywood. You ruined her. I never want to be gaslit by a female protagonist for the rest of my life. I am done with narcissists. Get rid of them. Now. Admittedly, I did trick you earlier. This is Maria. So let's look at her in the show. I honestly had no issues with her as a character. She's now 16 instead of 12. She has a siblingship with Richter. She still summons animal familiars and can wield sub-weapons, but now Tara is her mother, making her a speaker instead of a support character. And they made the priest that would have been Shaft into her father, which really complicates the nature of the church in this series to an egregious level. So this series shoves in the nature of the Catholic Church with the fathers that have relations with other people, as well as have a God-fearing person from the church have a gay relationship with an evil vampire. It's just, why? God is mentioned in this series. Satan is a actual villain in the Castlevania series. It's just, and they put in Sekhmet from Egyptian mythology? It doesn't make any sense. This show has the same logistics as an anime, but it's written like a Western cartoon. It just doesn't make a lick of sense. And then you add the deities from Africa into all of this? They have no loyalty to any theism whatsoever. Every single thing in this show is surface level. They just want to just change everything. They said it was an adaptation of Rondo of Blood, but I don't see it. I don't see a single iota except tiny, minuscule aspects of the original game in this show. It's not there. So let's wrap this up. Castlevania Nocturne gets 3 out of 5 stars. Maria was cool, Annette was awful, Richter was but he did look cool fighting. The youngest Belmont deserved better, and they greenlit a second season too. I swear, people are masochists. Now it's time for Knuckles, and it debuted April 27th, 2024. It's a mini-series with only 6 episodes. The Warrior, Don't Say I Wasn't There For You, The Shabbat Dinner, The Flames of Disaster, Reno Baby, and What Happens in Reno Stays in Reno. All 6 episodes were released on the same day, on April 26th and 27th, depending on the time zone, on Paramount+. The first one, directed by Jeff Fowler himself, started out okay. You saw an amazing obstacle course that Knuckles made that was so game-inspired, it was awesome. Then we have this moment of our hog Sonic talking about how he matured on this planet. Seeing if he can reason with Knuckles after he basically went wild on repairmen after they destroyed the wall in the past film. How they could afford all this property damage is beyond me. Then Knuckles turns the house into what could be described as Game of Thrones. Then he gets grounded and sent to his room. Sonic talks to him a little bit more. He leaves. Then Knuckles seeks the help of his ancestors. Enter Pacha Comic, from Sonic Adventure 1, voiced by Christopher Lloyd. This is when the series starts getting silly. Pachacamic, with no sense of irony, asked Knuckles to help the random Wade Whipple win a bowling tournament, as if Pachacamic couldn't have created a more poetic or interesting reason of why he trained Wade. And that's trains in quotes, by the way. And again, this is when Knuckles is grounded for some ungodly reason, or an unancestrally reason. He is able to leave the house and join Wade at the bowling tournament. In my opinion, the smarter idea would have made him go to his room to think about what he did. But no! Pretzel Lady grounded him. So Knuckles is not going to learn responsibility? Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention that Wade was part of a team that had a bounty hunter, and he was beaten by a Girl Scout. Making things worse, so he has to trade in his freaking uniform. Now, here's what I don't get. When Donut Lord is not working as a policeman, and Wade is supposed to be in charge of it all, who's policing the town? So he's at the bowling alley, and that's where he learns that Wade was abandoned by his father at a TJ Maxx, a very specific department store chain that was started in 1976. Keep in mind that this dude is 42 in real life. Adam Pally was born in 1982. Yet the word is out how old he is in the series. At this very same point, we have the introduction of the Team Rocket, rest in peace, Rachael Lillis, of course, type individuals from Gun, who send a man to his doom to the Mushroom Planet. They get their first mission, which is apprehending Knuckles, who is currently at the bowling alley, and a battle ensues. So what's really funny is that one of the two individuals that left Gun was actually someone who wrote the song for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Kid Cudi. His character name is Mason, like the jar. So is it some sort of meta humor that he's cast in this miniseries? Or was it an agreement after he recorded Stars in the Sky that he would be part of this miniseries via contract? My guess is that he was one big meta joke, because he uses the same lines that Knuckles did
Do I look like I need your power?
in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So then, who clued him what Knuckles said to Sonic? Is Gun doing some sort of Patriot Act that we don't know about? Where no one in this universe has any sort of privacy? Ugh, that's a scary thought. But then again, that would be very on brand for Gun because of what they did in the games. I mean, it makes perfect sense for Willoughby, or Ellie Taylor, to leave Gun after nefarious things that they've done. But that wasn't what she said was the reason she left. So... And her name is the same as an Archie character that just so happens to be voiced by my grandfather in Archie from the original cartoon. Weird coincidence. So Mason and Willoughby just so happen to thwart Knuckles and take him through a portal, where in the last scene we see him in a blue box. Thus we start the episode of Don't Ever Say I Wasn't There For You, directed by Ged Wright, who had never directed anything before this. He was merely a digital artist and visual effects supervisor. And it just so happens that this particular episode had the most visual effects shots in the entire freaking series that was fueled by delusions of grandeur, as Wade happened to have acquired the mitts that Mason had in the last episode. So somehow he gained the information of where Knuckles was being held and thought of a plan to rescue him. And he thinks that all the stuff he gets at a freaking gas station store can save Knuckles. Need I remind you, this is the same dude that failed to deal with Agent Stone in the last movie. I mean, he got him in a chair to interrogate him, but that's it. Then Robotnik completely reversed the situation. How in the world did this guy get a job as a police officer? He even sucks at taking phone calls. Yeah, this guy needs training. Bad. So, to no surprise, Wade's plan literally goes up in smoke. Even in a relatively funny scene, his car explodes. So there goes the idea of having a getaway. So even with the one power mitt he had from the last episode, he is completely out of his league. Mason completely has him under his thumb. Until, by sheer coincidence, Wade gets the upper hand and defeats Mason, knocking him out. So Knuckles is freed, and Wade rides him, learning he can hover, not fly, making a visual that's a very clear nod to E.T. So, to celebrate, Wade gets food for Knuckles. But they never eat it! Do humans even eat in this series? Even Tom leaves his freaking food on the lid of his truck and drives off! This was after the Quicksilver-inspired bar fight from the first movie. So back to this ridiculous mini-series. Somehow Wade has got himself another vehicle, it's probably a rental, and finds out that he's a fugitive from the law. So what does he do? He thinks, hey, let's go to a place that no one will ever find me. My house! His childhood home. Wade, wouldn't that be the first place they'd think of after your first house in Green Hills? So then they find themselves at the house of the Whipples. Stalkered Rizzo Channing opens the door, playing his mother, and has a feint that is out of continuity. Enter the most infamous episode of the entire series, the Shabbat Dinner, directed by Brandon Trost, the cinematographer for the ill-fated Coyote vs. Acme, who also worked on The Interview and The Disaster Artist. Yeah, he worked on the movie connected to the Sony hack. Now that was a doozy of an instance. And all I can say is good riddance to Amy Pascal and fire David Zaslav. As for Brandon Trost, he does have directorial credits to his name, and those are the FP and An American Pickle, and that's it, which were both middle-of-the-road films, critically. So there they are at the Boise, Idaho home of the Whipples, and it's the time of Shabbat, the day of rest. The Whipples are Jews, having 3 meals. The first on Friday night, the second on Saturday day, and the third late on Saturday afternoon. The Friday night meal begins with a song, welcoming the angels. Then the song follows with Kiddush, the Jewish practice of sanctifying the Sabbath over a cup of wine or grape juice. Episode 11 of Can't Be Juiced. Then they wash their hands and then lift challah breads. a sweet and leavened braided bread. If you added any more sugar, it would be turning into a dessert. They recite the blessing hamotzi. The challah is then sliced, dipped into salt, and then eaten. Then the meal continues with festive foods, often chicken, with singing, and then sharing thoughts of the Torah. If they were Ashkenazi Jews that came from Rome and spoke Yiddish, they would have gefilte fish at the start of the meal.
Gefilte fish! I'm not eating gefilte fish for the rest of this trip!
Now, what's gefilte fish? Well, it's a dish made of ground deboned fish, commonly carp, whitefish, pike, and Nile perch. Also, during the Friday night meal, they would have chicken soup. During the actual Shabbat meal, which is on Saturday, they would have all heated meals. But in the morning, it traditionally begins with kiddush and hamotzi onto halot. With that out of the way, we can now set the scene. So the Whipple family is a family of 3. Mom, Wade, and his sister. For most Sonic fans, she is the biggest issue. Meet Wanda Whipple, the cause of Wade's insecurity.
She is the worst.
Played by Edie Patterson, and she is a fully grown woman who acts like a child. And what's worse is that she is a FBI agent and loves to rub Wade's face in that fact.
Oh, shut up, woman.
I blame the writer of Brian Schachter, because somehow one of the writers of the acclaimed Green Eggs and Ham can't write a good family dynamic. Why? It's because for the longest time, he was a writing assistant, a staff writer, meaning he can't write by himself worth beans. So we have a subpar director with a mediocre writer. Sounds about right. So that means Knuckles will be joining the Shabbat dinner. Coincidentally, one of the drinks at the table is grape juice. Knuckles loves grapes. Was that an informed decision by the writers? I have no idea. Because curiously, before this Shabbat dinner, Knuckles didn't see the value of family. And honestly, it would be hard to do that with a family that has legendary, horrible Shabbat dinners for every year of their lives. It's because of 2 reasons. 1, Wanda is always the instigator. And 2, there's no dad. Dad ran off to have a bowling career and went by the name of Pistol Pete. Pistol Pete! Pistol Pete! Paramount, I know you have a storied history with Disney, but you didn't have to use the name! And the sad thing is, the reason why Wade is on this mission to do a bowling tournament is to get his dad back in his life.
You're unbearably naive.
So at this dinner, we have Wade with weird delusions about his dad. We have Wanda instigating things about thinking his job is inferior to hers. And they have Mom schmoozing with Knuckles and drawing parallels of the death of Knuckles' tribe with the issues that happened to the Jews. And you're not allowed to forget that this show was released at the time when Jews and the Palestinians were at each other's throats. I can understand why one side is being defended, but I don't understand the other. Why people are defending the people of Palestine when they weren't born there makes no sense to me. People severely need to look into history. So naturally, the dinner goes completely awry. And then we have Wade getting a kitchen utensil, a fork, stabbed in his arm. Clearly, Wanda went way too far. because that girl has a severe superiority complex. Wade just wants to sound impressive when he isn't, and Wanda just makes it worse. For the first time, I actually agreed with Wade when he said his sister sucks. So he goes to his room that hasn't changed a bit, pulls out the fork, and rests. Then Knuckles joins him after adding a plethora of new foods to his favorite foods list. They talk about the notion of the jam. Knuckles and Mom have a discussion about traditions within the family, sharing a piece of key lime pie. Then a noise erupts downstairs. They had found the Whipple home, as a bunch of bounty hunters were on his tail. Wade tries fighting a bounty hunter and fails miserably, so Knuckles has to naturally intervene and wins, smashing him through the wall. Wanda also tries fighting a bounty hunter and fails. She's so full of it. Once again, Knuckles has to take over. Then we have the best scene in the entire episode. The fight with Mom against the goons in the kitchen, playing against the song Hava Nagila. All that to get to the Shabbat candles. And here we are at episode 4. The one episode that either you love it or you hate it. We have arrived at episode 4, The Flames of Disaster. Directed by Jorma Taccone and written by James Matajeski. It is a new day, and Wade is enjoying the morning air. That is until a bounty hunter that he knows gets a hold of his legs and drags him down the road. Knuckles is there, looking at him while drinking scalding hot coffee, thinking that the hands-off approach is the way to train him. So that opening of the entire show was a lie. He doesn't actually train him, he lets nature take its course. So Wade is put into an electrified cage, and Wade tries to get himself out, but hurts himself in the process. So he loses consciousness and goes to the great battleground in the sky that takes the form of a bowling alley. And there's Pacha Comic at the counter. So as a explicitly cost-covering move, they teach Wade using an aesthetic inspired and made by Lonely Island. The director of this episode had voices in both Spider-Verse movies, worked on Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, was in both Lego movies, and worked on the song Everything is Awesome. You would think with all those fun credits that this episode would be cool. Not in my opinion, because as we've established, Knuckles isn't actually doing the training, isn't actually teaching him anything. And on top of that, Knuckles hasn't learned anything, except for mundane things about family. I'm not sure what Paramount Television was thinking when they made a show called Knuckles, where Knuckles doesn't learn to be a better fighter. This entire show is mostly a journey for Wade Whipple that frankly needed a more compelling narrative. Wade is given the costume of Knuckles and has to basically relive his life as a rock opera, which you really can't take seriously. The whole thing would have been better if they actually made real flashbacks. But they couldn't afford that, could they? So this whole sequence leads to him learning that being a warrior is from the heart, which results in Wade doing something completely superhuman and jumping out of the roof of the cage, smashing right through it. Where the heck did that come from? They really wrote themselves into a corner, didn't they? So after escaping the cage, he goes against his bounty hunter and proposes a duel with jousting, with bikes. He beats him and forces him to take his entire ensemble off, completely humiliating him, leaving him in his underwear, which is how Wade gets the hat. Not Knuckles, Wade. They pulled a Deus Ex Machina for Knuckles to get a hat. And so Knuckles and the Whipple family go to Reno. Thus we start the 5th episode, Reno Baby. Directed by Carol Banker. And to our dismay, it is also written by Brian Schachter. Gratefully, Carol Banker is a very seasoned director, having credits that include The X-Files, The Vampire Diaries, Glee, NYPD Blue, and The Tick, as well as Doom Patrol. Though for Titans, she has 7 episodes to her name. For the other shows, they are only about 1 through 3 episodes each. So she's very familiar with jumping projects. And for this show, it's no different, because she directs the last 2 episodes. She seems like, to me, a Jill of all trades, because she has directed genres of multiple kinds, including court shows, fantasy, superhero, action, science fiction, and comedy. Even a little bit of horror. And of course, musical, specifically jukebox musical. So essentially, what is this episode about? Well, it's about Wade reconciling with his dad, who happens to be played by Carrie Elwes, who is known for Princess Bride, Robin Hood Men in Tights, and Liar Liar with Jim Carrey. You gotta love those connections. So Wade thinks, with the help of Knuckles, that he can reason with his dad, confronting him face to face. But of course, because of Knuckles and his social ineptitude, it doesn't go smoothly, so Wade has to go it alone. We are obviously convinced that Wade got to him, and they get very chummy. Around the same time, Mason and Willoughby meet their boss face to face for the first time. And we find out his name is simply the Buyer. And apparently he worked for Robotnik. But then Sonic had that fight with Robotnik, and then he was sent to the Mushroom Planet, where Gunn got involved, where Gunn decided to basically erase all traces of Robotnik from the world, including him. So then why is he going against Knuckles when Sonic was the reason for his attempted assassination? Apparently it was out of mutual respect, and because he was collecting the quills from Knuckles to use for his inventions.
The whole thing is highly suspect.
Because they're plagiarizing their own freaking franchise. They can't think of any original ideas. Also, this is when we learn why Willoughby left Gunn. It's because she was an extraterrestrial eradicator, and then Gunn decided to stop killing them and help them instead. Because they put her into a desk job that she hated. Yet she had great respect for Ivo Robotnik. Go figure. So the Buyer gives them one last chance to go against Knuckles. Back in Reno, Wade somehow pulls out all the stops, beating everyone in the tournament except his father. Again, where did this Wade come from? This is the same dude that was beaten by Girl Scout Susie. So after the first round, Wade and his father celebrate in his penthouse. And this is after his mother warned him about the possibility of him pulling a 180. But no, the guy is unbearably naive as usual. And while Knuckles is in the dressing room by himself, Wade finds out that, yeah, of course, his father double crosses him, with Mason and Willoughby in the room with him, with his mother and his sister tied to chairs used as blackmail. So yeah, his mother was right. The dude is a scumbag through and through. Can I say how much I hate deadbeats of both male and female persuasions? And that includes you, Vanellope! Which leads to the final episode, What Happens in Reno Stays in Reno. once again directed by Carol Banker, whereas this one was written by John Whittington. He was one of the screenwriters for the Lego Batman movie, and wrote 5 episodes of The Green Eggs and Ham Show. Not to mention he's a screenwriter on both Sonic 2 and 3. So here's hoping for continuity. So this was the final episode. Wade has tipped Knuckles to the situation. Knuckles defeats the agents, then kills them with 2 rings. Then Wade goes to the tournament, beats him in the finals, while Knuckles goes against the freaking robot with Bayer inside. Bayer leaves Knuckles totally unconscious, then Wade has to interfere and throw bowling balls at him. Knuckles wakes up, he takes back his power, then throws a freaking dome on top of the Bayer and he's dead. Wade shows his father what for, and then there's a high five, and thus there's the end of the show. So pros, Knuckles as a character is written perfectly, and the action scenes are all awesome. Cons, character development is minimal. Wanda Whipple is an annoying character. Using a rock opera to avoid show don't tell was pathetic. And the whole excuse from the creators that they said they justified their writing to make it more like Happy Gilmore misses the whole point of Happy Gilmore. You need to be trained by chubs to be Happy Gilmore.
Golf's no different from hockey. Requires talent, self-discipline.
Happy Gilmore is Hero's Journey 101. Also, why did they give him training to be a better bowler when he could have been a better cop? And this show was frustrating. And to make matters worse, in order to save money, Paramount killed the company that made this show thereafter. So apparently this show was a success in viewing numbers, and yet the company is now dead. Make some sense of that. So I give Knuckles an overall 4 stars out of 5. There was fun to be had, but there was also plenty of cringe. So in summary, Castlevania Nocturne had DEI level incompetence, whereas Knuckles had general incompetence.
Eventually.
About dang time!
Sonic, you finally found your family.
Try to keep up.
Nice.
It's always been easy. But you didn't change who you are in here.
Oop, there's Donut Lord.
In my lungs.
Or your heart.
Oh, wow.
There's been a high-level
Oh, there's
security
Shadow.
and we need Team Sonic's immediate assistance.
Oh.
Project Shadow is far beyond anything we've ever encountered.
Oh, boy.
Shadow's story began a lot like yours, Sonic. But where you found
There's Maria.
friends, Shadow found only pain.
Oh, man.
All right, we got a rogue alien on the loose. How do we find it?
Huh.
Start with the giant fireball?
Yep.
I love it. Let's start with the
Yep,
giant
that works.
fireball.
Here we are.
He is much more impressive than the hedgehog I fought previously.
Dude, I'm standing right here. We don't want to fight you.
Actually, Sonic, I would like to fight.
No.
Knuckles, don't! Woo! Wait, he doesn't have chaos control? What?
Can we just talk about this?
He doesn't have chaos control? He doesn't need the freaking Chaos Emerald? Well, at least he moves the same way he does in the games.
I can't believe I'm saying
Oh.
we need you-know-who.
Yep, they need Robotnik.
Bad idea.
When has that ever stopped me?
Yep, there he is. Yep, he's gone fat.
Doctor! We have visitors. This is sad, Robotnik. Even for you.
We need your help.
On one condition.
That is so weird. This is so weird.
If I can't rule the world, I might as well save it.
This is so weird.
I need room. Sir, I don't have the proper materials.
This is so weird. Oh my goodness, he has his bicycle! Wow!
What I had to.
And that's totally Keanu Reeves. Whoa! That is cool!
Welcome home, my boy.
How is he still alive?
Is it? It couldn't be. Couldn't it? Are you?
That is
In
so
the
weird.
same flesh.
Why is he alive? That is so weird! Well, let's have a look at this monstrosity. Using the Beatles? I mean, it looks okay, but why the live action characters? Why? This is so weird. What? This is so weird.
Who are you?
I am Steve.
Oh my lord.
Okay.
This guy is such a tool bag.
Literally. What? I have no idea how to feel about this. Well, that took over a year to get to. Now it's about high time we look and see how the upcoming projects have changed. Well, while a lot of things have happened since the last time we've done this, well, the schedule hasn't changed much. Let's have a look. But things sure have gotten a little bit more complicated. This monstrosity. As Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is still coming out December 20th, 2024, Paramount is going to be owned soon by Skydance. Maybe. And of course, the Minecraft movie became a Minecraft movie and is still coming out. I mean, April it looks 4th, okay, but as you can see, why in the live action characters? And it's still by Warner Brothers. But something crazy is happening in 2026. This is so weird. Mario has competition with Ryu and Ken. How did that happen? What? Anyway, Street Fighter is coming out on March 20th, 2026 by Sony and Legendary, which is less than a month away from the Super Mario Bros. Movie 2, which comes out April 3rd, 2026 by Universal and Illumination. Now is where we get to the movies that have no release date still. We have Metal Gear Solid, which is still in production, by the way. They're working on the script. But Oscar Isaac is no longer involved. And it's still being made by Sony. I have no idea how to feel about this. Of course, we know that Legend of Zelda is on its way, and it's still being made by Sony. But no one knows if Detective Pikachu 2 is still in production. If it was, it would be still by Warner Brothers. The same fate is for both Mega Man and Pac-Man. Mega Man would have been made by Disney, and Pac-Man would have been made by Fox. However, we are still getting our live-action Pokemon fix through the project by Netflix, which features Red going to the Pokemon League. Word's out if it's any good, considering their previous track record. Well, I guess I'll see you in December. And we are finally done. If you like what you see, press like and subscribe. And smash that bell to get notifications on the channel where everything grows on you.